Welcome to the Fleet Geeks podcast. We're here to help develop fleet and transport professionals. Do you want to progress and develop your skills and knowledge? We promise to bring lively conversation and debate around interesting issues and keep you bang up to date with changes in our awesome industry. The Fleet Geeks are a community of professionals, and if you enjoy the podcast, why not join the discussion for free in the Fleet Geek community over on Facebook. Welcome to today's podcast. I am joined today by the amazing Sarah, who you all heard from last week. If you don't know who Sarah is from Weightmans, please do listen to last week's episode. She's absolutely amazing. We've just done we've recorded a lovely podcast on emissions and the environment and infrastructure and fuel duty. So please do check that out from last week. But we do have an extra person in the room for today's episode. We are joined by James.
Hi.
James
Hello, everyone.
Hello, yeah. James is one of Sarah's colleagues at Weightmans. James, if for the benefit of the listeners, would you be able to introduce yourself? Tell us more about your role.
Well, firstly, Pete, thank you for having me on. So yeah, I'm one of the solicitors who's one of the kind of most recent additions to the transport reg team at Weightmans. So one of the solicitors, kind of just 2.5 years PQE and just cutting my teeth with all things kind of transport for the last 6 months. So yeah, it's been a great experience so far, so thank you for having me on.
And doing a very good job, Pete, I must say.
Is it?
Yeah.
I was leaving that one for you.
Of course. I have to say that, don't I?
Yeah. I could just see the cash going under the table.
Yeah.
I'm joking. Cool. James, it's a pleasure to have you on the podcast as well. Today's episode is all about what we see coming up in 2026. A lot of the similar stuff that you'll have already been doing, so I'll prerequisite that. A lot of this stuff you'll be aware of, but we just want to make sure we're reiterating all the things that are going to be really important in 2026. This episode is going to be about driver management, vehicle compliance. We're going to talk about telematics, AI integration, as well as just making sure drivers are properly trained, wellbeing checked in, those kinds of things. They're the kind of highlights for this week. I'm really looking forward to discussing these topics with James and Sarah. So, let's kick things off. Driver management. Sarah, are we looking at more of the same in 2026? What's new for us? What do we need to be thinking about from a driver management perspective?
Yeah, I think Pete, driver management never stops, does it? But I think that the key thing for me, and I'll say it for driver management and I'll say it for vehicle compliance as well, is people not getting complacent and not letting things just go by the wayside. And I think the key here is that, drivers check vehicles every day before they go out. And, the process of doing it doesn't change. But are they still looking for the same thing today, maybe 4 or 5 years later, as they were looking for on that first day on the job? And I think that's the key for me, because they need to be doing that extra kind of layer of compliance when they do their vehicle checks every single day. And it's not just a quick whiz around. Does the vehicle look like it can move? Yeah, probably. But it's the key for me is, are they checking every part of the vehicle to ensure that they're happy that it's in a safe and roadworthy condition? And I think for transport managers then, the key there is, are you taking the time to do the same? Are you doing your gate checks? Have you got a good rota in place? Because maybe you don't want to wake up at 4 a.m. That's fine. But is somebody else doing them then that's on the site with the drivers to make sure that everything's going out in an appropriate manner? Along with that, talking about drivers, we know driver management is more than just signing off your infringement letters.
Sure.
But what does that look like? Are you just saying, here you go, Joe Bloggs, here's a load of letters, I need you to sign them off because that's what we have to do? Or are you sitting down with drivers and properly going through why they're getting these infringements? Not least because you need to investigate that stuff, really, for your own compliance internally. Is a driver constantly going over their time just a little bit? And how can you avoid that as a transport manager? Can you get them to stop a little bit earlier? Can you knock off one delivery one day and add it to another day, because that would work better for the driver's hours? How can your strategy improve around routing your drivers to maybe make sure that they don't get infringements? It's that kind of thing, I think, and it's that holistic approach on driver management to not just see it as paperwork. Drivers are human beings that need looking after, and we'll talk about driver wellbeing a bit later on, but I think that's the key for me. It's making sure that you are present with your drivers. Do they know who you are as a transport manager? I do hear that sometimes. Not sure which one's the transport manager, or something like that.
Do you still hear that at driver conduct hearing? It's like, oh, I'm not sure I've met the transport manager. Don't know who that is.
And I think in large operations, there are a lot of other people that might be involved that it might not be so easily identifiable. But is there somebody else that's at the site? Is there someone else that's managing any issues? Do you have sort of good things in place to ensure that driver behaviours look good? Do drivers want to drive safely as well? Because are you making them rush? Is there a reason to rush? Sure. Even if you're not saying rush, do they think that there's a reason to rush when they're doing things every day? And making sure that things like overspeeds are tackled along with any other driving time infringements. So I think that with drivers, it's just keeping that front and centre for your compliance and just making sure that it doesn't become just another bit of paperwork, sure. Because it needs to be really your day-to-day, I think, with the drivers.
Sure. So can I just do a little plug for a new service that we're offering from a driver management perspective for Flagship?
Please do.
I just wanted a quick opportunity. I'm just going to quickly talk about it. So Optifile, we spent a lot of 2025 developing Optifile, which is our new management system for drivers to be effectively managed. And the reason for that is to make the things that we're talking about like easier to happen. So Optifile essentially takes care of that whole paperwork piece. It gives drivers access via their apps to all of the vehicle documentation, all of their policy documentation, all of that comms piece, as well as toolbox talks, those kinds of things. And what that means is that Transport Manager can rest assured all of that documentation stuff's done, right? It becomes much easier for them to really focus on what you're talking about, which is really spending time with the drivers, making sure they're doing gate checks properly, making sure they're doing the things they should be doing. Optifile just helps streamline the administrative side. So just wanted to give a little plug for that. Let's talk a bit about vehicle compliance, because whilst we talk about that and maintenance, tell us a bit more about Comply.
Transport Manager Comply. Yes, I will tell you a bit more about that. So here's another plug from me then. Yeah. So at Weightmans, we've developed a tool called Transport Manager Comply that really helps you do that full circle piece. And as transport managers, I think that, again, you might have support, you might not. You might be the person that books in all vehicles for PMI. You might receive the PMI sheets back. Somebody else might, you might have an administration team that assists with that, or an assistant transport manager, I don't know. But how can you ensure that everybody keeps on top of it? Well, Transport Manager Comply can really help you with that, because it takes you through the process of reviewing all vehicle maintenance documents. So your PMI, your brake test, it'll ask you relevant questions about the document so that you have to review it properly. And I say that because so often people present me with the brake test that says pass on the bottom. And we've probably talked about this before, Pete, but is it a true pass? Is it a fully laden test? What do your imbalances look like? Are they massive? Because if you've got massive imbalances, are you going back to your maintenance provider and saying, I need a retest actually. This might have passed, but for me, I'm not happy with this. And, of course, making sure that the test as well matches the PMI. I see that sometimes maybe the maintenance provider won't put the correct detail on the PMI sheet that's on the brake test. Again, what's going on there? Why? It's questioning these things and not just getting the PMI and the brake test back and popping it in the drawer and going, oh, we did that bit, that's fine. Sure. It is being proactive with it. And it also includes things like any wheel removal, so your wheel retorques as well. And there's opportunity to put all of those documents together, and then you sort of keep your audit piece, which is your TM Comply piece, along with those documents to really show that you have taken a look at them, taken them time to review them, and that you're happy, predominantly, that this vehicle is safe to be on the road. That's the key. Have we got these documents back, and are we happy that the vehicle is safe to be on the road in a compliant state? And that's the key for me, really, that this tool offers you the opportunity to kind of officially state that when you go through the documents. Sure.
Fantastic. Good. So there you have it. They're sort of the basics covered again, really. So driver management, vehicle compliance. Make sure, as a transport manager, you're on it. Make sure your drivers know who you are, and that you're certainly in charge of the compliance, and make it really clear that your vehicles are safe for the road. Let's move on then. So we suggested talking about telematics and data, as well as a bit of AI integration here. So just from a tech perspective, what should transport managers be keeping an eye out for? Obviously, pretty much, I would say, all fleets have access to telematics. What should transport managers be doing with it?
Well, a lot of the telematics now, they're such a core tool and they're so prevalent within the industry that it's such a key thing that transport managers can rely on. So they can look at the route optimization, they can look at like the driver scores about, if there's harsh braking events or if they're, complying with their speed limits and things like that. So it's a really, really good basis to form a database essentially from your driver behavior, how they're driving. And like Sarah said, it can form part of that active management of your drivers and incorporate that into the overall fleet management. And a lot of these telematics services, because they're so prevalent within the industry, it's becoming, certainly getting to a point where they're becoming very relied on, and all transport managers are kind of now, definitely from a business perspective, are almost expected to integrate them at some point or work alongside them. There's obviously these regulatory kind of elements that kind of run alongside it. And I think especially from the traffic commissioner's point of view, whenever we get clients that are coming in and producing their telematic data or anything like that, if we're focusing on a specific driver, they may rely on that as, a certain decision has been taken for that driver if there's been an issue. But the traffic commissioner may kind of look at that data and say, okay, well, that's great, but how is it kind of being used to actively manage? So if there's been an issue with a bridge strike or something, then if there was a harsh braking event or that is specific to that driver, why wasn't it kind of picked up on? So whilst they're great to rely on, it's a good data source, there also needs to be that alignment of active management as well for transport managers. So you can't just kind of rely on that these systems are operating in the background to say, oh, look, we've got all these great things in place. What are you actively doing as a transport manager to use that to benefit your continuous and effective management of the fleet?
Sure.
So
is that becoming an expectation now that you're seeing, certainly from the traffic commissioners, that transport managers are proactively managing that data?
Yeah, and I think definitely in the context where we're producing it as evidence. It's not necessarily an expectation that you have those systems in place, but if we're looking to rely on it, we can't just point to it working in the background. If it's something that we're using to avoid situations that bring us before the traffic commissioner, or we're having to write something to the traffic commissioner, we need to be able to blend it with an active management. We can't. It's like having a policy on bridge strikes. You can't just say we have a policy on bridge strikes. You have to train it out to your drivers to make sure that they're aware of it. So
I think one of the challenges I have with telematics that I raise to transport managers is that there's a level of knowing something's a problem and it then being a foreseeable risk. So an example being if we're ignoring that telematics data but we've paid for it and we know it's there and available and we're just ignoring the data, and then something catastrophic happens,
it's almost working
the level of
of
culpability for a transport manager there. I don't know whether I'm speaking out of turn or not, but is that a potential challenge for a transport manager?
I mean, I definitely think so. It is that kind of, it's a benefit if it's used effectively. It's a benefit if it's used in an active sense, but you're quite correct. If we've raised that we have these telematics operating in the background, the traffic commissioner says, okay, well, I'd like to see that for this driver or this instance. And we can't kind of align that with taking positive action, then you definitely could be facing an issue, and it can work against you. So it's all about careful consideration about how you embed it within the wider kind of transport compliance. And obviously we don't want to scare transport managers away from it, because they're such powerful tools and they're so effective. But
it's
it
interesting,
comes with that health warning a little bit.
I think it's really interesting. It's like anything, operationally we drown in data now. So we've got loads and loads of data, and now it's about, I think for 2026, I guess my advice for transport managers is to glean the wisdom from it, glean the learnings, and see the development opportunity from what that data is telling you, and make sure that you follow up. I think it's really important.
Hi, it's Pete from Flagship Partners. Let me ask you something. How confident are you that the right version of your policies, procedures, and any compliance documents are actually being used right now? Because if your answer is fairly confident, that's not confidence, it's hope. At Flagship, our digital services, we help fleet operators move from folders, chaos, and crossed fingers to clarity, control, and confidence. Our platform, Optifile, is built specifically for fleets like yours. One source of truth, full version control, and clear accountability, and a simple way to prove your people have seen, understood, and signed the right documents every single time. No more, which version is this? No more, I think that's updated, and no more sleepless nights before an audit. If you're serious about running a safer, greener, greater fleet, it starts with getting your foundations right. Head to Flagship Partners and discover how, through our digital services like Optifile, we can tidy up the mess, reduce risk, and give you your time back. Because compliance shouldn't be a dark art, it should be crystal clear.
With regards to AI integration, how are you guys seeing that integrated at the moment into operators from an AI perspective?
Well, I think with that one, it's just kind of where AI fits in operations. And again, there's a lot of considerations around GDPR and how you use data. So I think that it's starting, but I'm not seeing it like as much as, of course, the importance of telematics data gives us the stuff we need to know. AI integration is helpful for, routing and things like that, and help and assisting with the operation. But I think we're seeing more progression from people like the DVSA with adoption of tech. So we need to make sure that we keep on top of things as well. And from what James was saying earlier, and from what I said on the previous podcast about that proactive approach, the road safety strategy was just published, and I wrote an article on that if anyone's interested in reading it. But a key,
where can they find that, Sarah?
Oh, they can find that on the Weightmans website or on my LinkedIn. But the key from that as well is that the DVSA are adopting this tech. And so if you want to be proactive as an operator, you need to be one step ahead of that then almost, because we know that they can do things like check tachograph data without pulling a vehicle over. So if you're not checking yours, well, they can check it. So, if you're not checking your telematics data, then someone else will, I think is kind of the caution or whatever for 2026, because the DVSA are getting a lot smarter with their tech. So, we need to make sure that we are as well, I think. And that's the key, I think, moving forward. Make sure you're proactive with it. Don't let it fall into the background, because other people around you will be using it. So you don't want to fall foul of them getting something before you do.
I've kind of smiled into myself because I get a lot of people message me on Facebook going, where do I find the podcast? How can I listen to it? And so the people listening to the podcast have managed to use their phones to find their podcast app or download a podcast app and listen to the podcast, which means they're probably relatively tech savvy. But I do believe there's a percentage of transport managers out there who probably wouldn't know where to go to find and listen to this podcast, and probably have no idea what data they've got available to them and how to use it either. That's a frightening prospect, isn't it?
Where can we go to find the podcast?
Great question, James. It's available on all major podcast apps. So regardless of your favourite podcast app, we're there, and it's on YouTube as well. So I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, cool. So being more tech savvy is definitely on the cards for 2026 then, by the sounds of it.
Yeah.
Driver training, skills, policy procedure, wellbeing. What's on the agenda for that for 2026? What are our thoughts there?
Yeah, I think a key part of 2025 was driver wellbeing, and I saw it at a lot of events and conferences that I attended, and I think it's not stuck in 2025. It has to move forward into 2026 and of course the future. But it really was kind of heightened slightly, I think, because I think there's an acknowledgement in the industry at how difficult driving can be, and how this job is, there's a lot of stress attracted to the job, but not just for drivers, of course, transport managers, anyone involved in the operation. It's getting things to places on time, and with the right attitude, hopefully, and in a compliant way. And so I think driver wellbeing has to stay front and center, and I think it's important that it does. I think that that goes back to what we said at the start about driver management. Do you see your drivers ever? Do you meet with them? Do you speak with them? Do you know what's going on? And you don't need to know everything about their lives, but do you know if they're fatigued? Is something going on at home? Have they recently, there's something gone in the family where they're not getting much sleep at night, or something's affecting them. So actually their driving is becoming, not good, and things are happening. And then by reviewing any telematics data that, like James was talking about, you're seeing that there are a lot of harsh braking incidents, and actually they don't seem to be as alert. Are you picking up on that? And are you putting all these things together? Because by reviewing all of those opportunities in compliance, you can piece together maybe an issue that might be happening. So I think that is the key with drivers. And of course, it's always ensuring that you're refreshing drivers, because again, like I said at the start, a walk around check that might have been done on their first day at the business might be different to a walk around check sort of 5 years later.
Sure.
Are you refreshing them on things, and are you doing things like practical driving assessments, and are you taking them out and seeing how what your driver's style is like? And that might not be you, it might be your driver trainers or whatever if you have them in your business, or it might be you as a transport manager. Are you using people like Flagship to refresh your policies and procedures and make sure again that they're all being sent out to your drivers? Are they signing for them to say that they understand the changes or the updates as well? And can they come to you and ask questions about them if they have them? Because it's all well and good signing a document, but if you don't really understand it, or you have a lot of questions on it, is there an open door policy there for them to come and ask? Because with the implementation of all these new things, like data and stuff like that, and like new tech, do drivers know how to use it all? Is it a bit confusing? Yeah. Is it overwhelming? Do they know what's going on? So I think that's a key there. I think,
are they switching off those driver assistance aids? Those kinds of things.
Yeah.
What does the policy say?
Exactly. And have you covered yourself as a business to make sure that if those things happen, your policy does dictate what should happen? Because is it appropriate that if a driver does that instigates an investigation? I don't know, whatever it might look like. But have you made that really clear? Because the worst thing is you don't want to start taking your driver through a process that shouldn't be a process. Or you want to have the ability to do what you need to do in terms of a robust approach to drivers, and you need to have the policies in place to help you with that. So I think a final point on that is we know there's still a driver shortage. I think that it will continue into 2026. I don't think there's a silver bullet for that. But what I do think is if you can keep your drivers upskilled and trained and happy, happy drivers are probably going to be loyal drivers. And what you want is that loyalty from your drivers, because hopefully that means that they're also driving in a safe and compliant way that reflects your business well, because they're the ones that are seeing your customers. They're the ones that are driving on the roads with your branded fleet. They're the ones that are your front and centre. So you just need to make sure, I think, that you keep on top of training them, their well-being and understanding where they're at, and of course making sure that they're driving your vehicles safely and compliantly.
Sure, fantastic. I think my reflection based on the kind of key themes across these two podcasts is you can kind of put fleet operators into one of three buckets. You've got the reactive operators who are going to react when something negative happens.
Yeah.
You've got the proactive at the other end who are busy proactively doing things, listening to podcasts. Yeah. And then in the middle, and hopefully this doesn't resonate with you if you're listening, but in the middle we've got something that I call comfortable complacency, which I think we just need to be a little bit careful of. If you're listening to this and going, oh well, I'm doing that and I'm doing a bit of that and I'm doing a bit of that, I think just think about, if you're in a place of comfortable complacency, what can you do to just edge into the proactive category, into that bucket of proactiveness? It might be an audit. It might be like a proactive audit rather than a reactive audit. It might be looking at best practice. It might be a mock PI. It might be some educational events focusing on driver wellbeing, running some campaigns. So one of the things I talk about a lot with driver stress and wellbeing and those kinds of things is that I think it's really good, rather than dealing with those things on a reactive basis, look to do some promotional stuff. So I talk about proactively focusing on like the 4 pillars, so sleep, nutrition, exercise, relaxation. So making sure that drivers are really well educated about the impact of a lack of sleep, how that affects them, their cognitive abilities, their reactions, those kinds of things. What's an optimal amount of sleep? How do they track their sleep? All those kinds of things. Just start to really educate them around that well-being. I think is really positive. Yeah, and I think finally, TMs, you can take a look at yourself, can't you? You evaluate yourself. A bit of self-evaluation never hurt nobody. So I think that,
are your skills where you want them to be? Do you need to upskill a bit more? Do you need to, across these 2 podcasts, we've talked about moving into the future. Do you need to upskill yourself to do that? And do you need a bit more training on your telematics systems in order to use them in the best way possible? Because there's nothing wrong with admitting that you don't know everything. Hopefully you don't. So I think that's a key too.
Appreciate that. Sarah James, thank you.
Thank
for
you.
joining me on today's podcast.
Pleasure.
Have you enjoyed it?
Yeah, I tell you what, as a first podcast ever, it's been great.
Oh, brilliant,
good.
James. I'm glad you've been in safe hands with Sarah and I, so that's good. Sarah, thank you for joining me as well over the last 2 episodes. Really appreciate it.
Been a pleasure.
And wishing yourselves and Weightmans all the success for 2026. Yeah. I'll catch you on a future episode. Thank you for listening, everybody. Please do give us 5-star feedback. Please do follow and subscribe, and share the episode with your transport and fleet operator colleagues. We'd love to reach more and help support more and more people. Thank you very much. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please share with your friends and colleagues too. Join us for free on Facebook with the Fleet Geeks community for transport and fleet managers. Fleet Geeks offers ongoing professional development, networking and mentoring too. So get in touch with me, Pete Rushmer, on any social media platform to find out more.